Pada pendapat saya lah, pendidikan memang bagus lah kan. Tak kisahlah. Kita nak dedahkan pada peringkat awal, pada saya 16 tahun memang wajar juga. Tapi pendekatan tu, maksud saya macam pendekatan pembelajaran, biarlah bersesuaian. Lebih kurang macam pendekatan pembelajaran tu, sesi pembelajaran jangan terlalu open. Subjek yang kita nak buka pada pelajar pun ada limitnya, ada batasnya. Kan? Macam itulah. Pendek katanya, biarlah pelajaran tu memberi kebaikan kepada pelajar yang berada pada lingkungan tersebut. Kalau boleh lebih baik pada kedua-duanya, tapi kita adakan pada kelas yang berasingan. Kan? Biar pelajaran tu memanglah ikut kekangan masa kan daripada cikgu. Tapi terbaiknya macam tu lah. Biar lelaki, mungkin ada sudut lelaki yang berbeza, kita pisahkan. Sebab ini ada satu macam kadang-kadang tu ilmu seks ni memang, walaupun dari kita segi Islam kan, dia memang sedikit macam ilmu yang agak, macam mana saya nak cakap ni? Dia agak macam sulit, benda sulit kan?
Saya rasa tak setuju lah. Sebab dalam Islam pun dia dah ajar daripada kecil lagi. Macam takhirah kan, cara mencuci, cara macam mana nak handle tu semua. Kalau kita dah belajar agama daripada kecil sampai 16 tahun, dia dah tahu semua. Kalau betul-betul belajar lah. Jadi sebabnya dia tak ajar, tiba-tiba nak ajar seks dengan tak tahulah apa benda yang dia nak ajar kan. Saya rasa saya tak setuju.
Pendapat saya, kenapa lelaki sahaja? Bagi saya dua-duanya penting. Tapi isu untuk nak start dengan 16 tahun tu, bagi saya perlu dikaji lebih baik lagi lah. Lebih teliti lagi. Pasal bagi saya benda tu sebenarnya daripada awal lagi dah boleh diajar. Tapi diajar secara berperingkat. Kalau 16 tu saya rasa kadang-kadang bawah 16 pun dia lebih tahu daripada kita. Saya rasa pendapat tu lebih patut benda tu diperincikan lebih jelas lagi lah. Macam mana cara dia nak buat. Bagi saya tak setuju. Benda ni seolah-olah macam drastik sangat. Kenapa pilih lelaki saja? Kenapa bukan perempuan? Dan kenapa 16 tahun? Bagi saya pendapat tu, yang tu semua dia kena teliti lagi lah.
Saya setuju pendidikan seks itu diperkenalkan untuk peringkat umur 16 tahun lah. Cuma kita kena tengok pendidikan seks itu dari sudut macam mana. Dari sudut macam mana, contohlah dari segi soal konteks kasih sayang, macam mana nak bertegur sapa dengan orang. Itulah yang istilah pendidikan seks. Cuma kalau diperkenalkan dari sudut macam mana hubungan suami isteri itu dibuat, saya tak setuju dari sudut tu. Cuma orang cakap dari segi umumnya mungkin. Cuma bila dah masuk konsep yang lebih detail lagi, pada saya tak sesuai lah. Macam hubungan suami isteri nak perkenalkan dengan seorang pelajar yang berumur 16 tahun, pada saya sangat tak sesuai. Ya, perempuan dia tak perkenalkan, dia tak dedahkan dengan pendidikan seks. Lelaki dia perkenalkan. Sebagai contoh, mungkin contohlah, seorang lelaki yang berumur 16 tahun, dia pegang dia buat sesuatu yang tak elok untuk perempuan juga. Mungkin tafsiran seorang lelaki itu masuk dalam kategori pendidikan seks. Tapi bila perempuan pula yang tak didedahkan dengan pendidikan seks, dia tak tahu tu pun itu masuk dalam istilah seks. So pada saya, jika dibuat macam ni dari segi pengklasifikasian jantina, lelaki tahu yang itu istilah seks, perempuan pula tak tahu yang itu istilah seks. So pada saya tak setuju kalau seandainya pendidikan seks hanya diperkenalkan di kalangan lelaki. Dua-dua kena ada.
Aku rasa bagus lah. Sebab budak-budak sekarang ni memang kurang lah ilmu tentang tu kan. So kita kena open minded sikit lah. Sekarang dah sampai masa dia.
So Kak rasa memang perlu kan?
Perlu. Tapi kita kena ada guidance dengan guideline yang betul lah.
Perlu juga sebab ada anak sekarang perlu dididik dari awal lagi. Kan? Untuk supaya mereka lebih tahu pasal seks. Budak-budak sekarang kan dia orang lebih, biarkanlah dia orang terbuka fikiran untuk mereka tahu lebih awal mengenai keburukan dan kebaikan dia.
Assalamualaikum everyone. Hi, my name is Nur Fatini binti Zulgafar and I am from ED 2417A. It is finally our turn for the group presentation. So, without further ado, let's start. The topic that we have chosen for this presentation is a very prominent topic, and it is not only happening in Malaysia but also in the whole wide world. The topic for our presentation today is teen pregnancy. Can it be avoidable with the implementation of sex education? For that, let's get to know the presenters for today. We have Nur Fatini binti Zulgafar, Sarah Aisyah binti Syaruzaman, Nur Kamalia binti Kamaruddin, and Siti Khairul Atiyah binti Muhammad Khairul Aldin. The four of us will be covering in depth into 4 sections. The first section, reasons for the spike in teen pregnancy by Nur Fatini, and then Sarah Aisyah will be covering on the factors for the lack of sexual education in the current education system. Next, Nur Kamalia will talk about the types of sexual education, and lastly, Siti Khairul Atiyah will touch on how to apply it in the Malaysian context. Do you know, every single year there are approximately 3,000 rape cases, 18,000 teenage pregnancy, and 100 cases of baby dumping? And that is just the tip of the iceberg, ladies and gentlemen, because these numbers are the cases that have been reported. And believe me when I say that there are so many other unreported cases out there. Other than that, researchers have also found that 90% of respondents agreed that sexual education is not being taught in Malaysian schools. Not only that, 35% of Malaysia female youth believe that first-time sex will not lead to pregnancy, and 65% of Malaysian men did not know that sexual consent must be an explicit yes. But first, let's look at the reasons for the spike in teen pregnancy. Teenage pregnancy, also known as adolescent pregnancy, is the one in which the mother's age is between 13 to 19 years old, according to World Health Organization, WHO. The first reason is the influence of media. How can media be the cause of teen pregnancy? Okay, according to a research, teens spend an average of 7 hours and 22 minutes on their phones every day. I repeat, 7 hours and 22 minutes every day. It shows that they have spent almost 1/3 of the day just by looking at the phone. Moreover, in today's world, you can do anything with just a phone. There's Netflix if you want to watch movies or TV shows. There's internet, of course, internet, where you can basically surf almost anything. And there's also ebook like Wattpad, where you can read online without having to buy a physical book again. It is all at the tip of your fingers. Hence, this popular media glorifies teen sex and makes it seem like a norm, and it lacks any information about safe sex practice. Movies and TV shows like Teen Mom and 16 and Pregnant glamorizes teen pregnancy and hide the true hardships associated with pregnancy, which encourages teens to become pregnant. Research in 2014 suggests that young girls who are frequent viewers of the show 16 and Pregnant were more likely to have an unrealistic perception of teenage motherhood. Additionally, viewers were found to perceive the benefits of teen pregnancy to be greater. Moving on to the next reason, which is peer pressure. Peers are people who are part of the same social group. So the term peer pressure means the influence that peers can have on each other. Although peer pressure does not necessarily have to be negative, the term pressure implies that the process influences people to do things that they may be resistant to. So, usually the term peer pressure is used when people are talking about behaviors that are not considered socially acceptable or desirable, such as experimentation with alcohol, drugs, or even sex. According to Whitaker and Miller 2000 and Kirby 2001, when teens believe, correctly or not, that their peers are having sex, they are more likely to have sex. Peers can influence the views of their age groups, hence, bad influence leading to risky behaviors such as unprotected sexual activity, which may lead to pregnancy. This can happen when they feel left out from the group for not having sex, hence making them feel that they have to have sex in order for them to belong to the group. This can be seen in a survey that has shown that 30% of boys are pressurized by their peers to take part in sexual activity, and about 7% of Malaysians aged 13 to 17 have already had intercourse. Last but not least, lack of knowledge about sexual and reproductive health is definitely one of the causes of teen pregnancy. What we have seen just now are proofs that many of our teenagers are still clueless about sex education. There are still people out there who believe that first-time sex will not lead to pregnancy. And there are also teenagers that don't know how to avoid from becoming pregnant. And what's shocking to me that in that survey, only 38% of girls know that babies are delivered through vagina. With this, I believe that there are many teenagers out there who are still clueless on how to practice safe sex in order to avoid diseases and also being pregnant. So that's all from me. Now I will pass the floor to the next presenter. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Sarah Aisha binti Sharuzaman, and I will be presenting factors for the lack of sexual education in the current educational system. However, before we look at the factors, let's look at the need for sexual education. First, what is sexual education? Sexual education or sexual health education is a comprehensive curriculum that covers and includes topics such as bodily changes during puberty, sexuality, health relationship, and biology that allows people to make informed decisions about their sexual health. This means that with sexual education, individuals, especially teens, are able to understand and make the right decisions for their well-being and also others. However, based on a study by the Center of Governance and Political Studies in 2019, an average of 18,000 teenage girls in Malaysia reportedly get pregnant every year. Out of this total, 25% involve cases out of wedlock, which means 4,500 out of the 18,000 teenage girls are having sex out of marriage. The current issue is, with higher rate of teenage pregnancy, the likelihood of child marriages increases. With this, the likelihood of failed marriage or domestic abuse also increases. More teenage pregnancies also points to a danger of more child dumping cases. One of the ways we can counter this issue is by having a good sexual education curriculum, which is why there is a need for sexual education. Now, now, let's take a look at factors for the lack of sexual education in the current educational system. There are two main factors we are going to look at today. First is the discomfort of parents and teachers with the topic, and second is the religious reasons. The first factor from the parents' perspective, there are a few reasons to why parents feel discomfort. One of it is their refusal to acknowledge that their children are no longer kids anymore. Most parents would likely say that their children are still far too young and too innocent to talk to them about sexual education, which leads the parents to ignore the topic. A 2014 study, which interviewed professional workers from multiple sectors as respondents, reported them saying that Malaysian parents lack awareness of their children's sexual behaviors, don't want to know about their sexual behaviors, and don't talk to them about sex. Going back to our point, this response from parents is understandable as they still think their children are kids. So why would you talk about sexual education to kids? However, a fact states that by 12 to 13 years of age, teens begin to show a general interest in sexual topics. Next is parents' refusal to acknowledge their subconscious involvement towards their teens' behavior. For instance, encouraging puppy love. Here's a story from a mother. Her daughter, an 8-year-old, had an admirer in school, this 8-year-old boy. To declare his love to her, he wrote her letters, sang her songs, and told everyone of his feelings for her. This girl, however, did not like him back. So one day she came home crying as the boy had wrote her yet another love letter. Because of how distressed her daughter was, the mother decided to call the boy's parents. When she expressed her concerns about their boy's behavior, the parents replied that their son's behavior was harmless and nice and that he meant well. They even told the lady to ask her daughter to reply to their son's letter because he will be devastated if she didn't. This comes to show how his behavior was considered cute and encouraged by his parents, and that the girl needs to fulfill her role of, of reciprocating his feelings. This kind of response from parents will result in teens thinking their behavior is acceptable, as they have been brought up thinking that way. There is no wrong in forcing your feelings on to others. Also, there is no wrong in doing what they please, as it is harmless and cute. So, what's a little bit of kissing and touching? There's nothing wrong with it. The last reason is parents' refusal to acknowledge the discussion of the topic, of or not knowing how to actually talk about sexual education. Basically, sexuality issues are regarded as negative matters in Malaysian society. We mostly broadcast the criminal and illegal aspects of sexuality, making people not want to talk about it. If we take a look at the news on the television and in the newspapers, uh, when they do talk about sexual issues, it is usually portrayed as a bad thing. This is why people, especially parents, tend to avoid the topic as it is bad. Parents not wanting to talk about sexual education can also be connected to their cultural upbringing. They themselves are brought up without talking about sexual issues. That is why they don't know how to approach this topic with their own children. Moving on, discomfort with the topic from the teacher's perspective. One of the reasons for this is teachers' unwillingness due to being unprepared and inexperienced to teach and explain sex-related topics in a proper way. Because of this, teachers teach using various analogies and metaphors in explaining topics relating to sex. This gives them an opportunity to provide students with vague answers. Not only that, The data from a study recorded that 53.6% of the teachers in their study explained that the content of sexual information from the books is already enough for the students to understand the issue, meaning that there is no need for the teacher to explain topics on sexual education further, as it is all there. In addition, another reason is that teachers also find it awkward to teach the real rash text of sexual education. This again goes back to the previous reason, where teachers are unprepared and inexpert. Having to explain sexual education thoroughly is not something easy to do. This is because the subject itself is not comprehensive as it only covers certain specific parts. Take science for instance. As some of us might remember from Form 3, Chapter 3, it focuses on anatomy, reproduction, contraceptives, and STDs. The second and last factor for the lack of sexual education in the current educational system is religious reasons. Parents and teachers both have constant fears that it will promote sexual activities. Due to this, religious teachers tend to only explain the religious values of the topic, disregarding the physical and social aspects. The parents' responses to the topics on sexuality education in school curriculum from a study done can also reflect their fears. From this study, 96.7% of the parents agreed to Islamic views on sexuality. Another topic, values of sexual values of sexual abstinence until marriage. 92.9% of the parents agree to that topic. However, on the other hand, for birth control, the topic of birth control, only 45.2% of the parents agree to this topic, followed by natural family planning, 63.3%, and teenage pregnancy, 65.7%, showing that they are actually afraid that their children might want to do these activities. That's why they choose Islamic view rather than teaching on teenage pregnancies. Okay. In addition, another religious reason is that sexual education corrupts the minds of teenagers and children. A study in 2015 found that childhood and sexuality do not coexist harmoniously in Islamic traditions, since the latter is recognized as the exclusive realm of adulthood. Concepts adolescent as a distinct pre-adulthood life stage and adolescent sexuality have rarely been acknowledged in Islamic traditions. Sex education for children and adolescents is widely regarded by Muslims as dangerous knowledge to the vulnerable that awakens premarital sexuality and undermines Islamic identity. This concludes my part for the factors for the lack of sexual education in our educational system. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Kamalia Binti Kamarudin and I'm the third presenter that going to present on the type of sex educations. Now we know the reason for the spikes of teen pregnancies and factors for the lack of sexual education in the current education system. Let's move on to the types of sex education program. But before that, we need to be aware that today's kids are inundated with sex. There is nudities on the internet, sex in the movie, and intimations of sex in popular music, All schools and teachers face the problem how to help these kids grow into sexually healthy adults by encouraging safe behavior without stepping the toes of their parents. Because we know that as a parents, they need to be fully aware of what their teens is taught about sex at schools. They want to be sure that the information is complete, accurate, and reflect their family's values. They want to be sure that they are prepared to answer questions that their teens may have. Okay, we found that there are three types of sex educations, which are comprehensive sex educations, health and safety oriented sex educations, and abstinence-based sex educations. The first types of sex educations is abstinence-based sex educations. I know all of you are familiar with this, but bear with me. Abstinence-only education is also called sexual risk avoidance. These educations teach that abstinence is the expected standards of behavior for teens. These educations emphasize abstinence from all sexual behavior and do not cover information on contraceptive, sexually transmitted infections, and also masturbations, and etc. And these educations also teach that sexual expression outside of marriage could have harmful psychological, social, and physical consequences. This education usually does not cover controversial topics such as abortions, masturbations, and it may address using condoms, but it only emphasizes on the failure rates of using them. And to make it simple for all of you, abstinence-based sex educations do not acknowledge that many teens will become sexually active, do not teach about contraceptions or condom use, avoid discussions of abortions, and exclaims that sexually transmitted diseases and HIV are reasons to remain abstinent. Okay, the second types of sex educations is comprehensive sex educations. Comprehensive sex educations provide medical accurate, age-appropriate information about abstinence as well as safer sex practice, including contraceptions and condom as effective ways to reduce unintended pregnancy and STIs. Comprehensive programs also usually includes information about healthy relationships, communication skills, and human development. These are among other topics that are being discussed in these educations. And I believe in the other part of the world, especially in the United States of America, comprehensive sexuality education is a program that starts in early childhood and continues through high schools. It's bringing up age-appropriate sexuality topics and covers the broad spectrums of sex education, including safe sex, sexually transmitted infections, contraceptive, masturbations, body image, and much more. This education teaches that sexuality is a natural, normal part of healthy living. It's covered topics such as sexual oppressions, relationship, and also culture. And it also emphasized that strategies to reduce the risk of unintended pregnancies and sexual transmitted infections. If according to research in United States of America, the likelihood of pregnancies was 30% lower among those who had abstinence-only educations. And the third type of sex educations is health and safety-oriented sex educations. Health and safety-oriented sex educations is sex education that teaches students the mechanics of sex as well as basics of birth control and sexual consent, which students and teens might lack of. And students receive this lesson in choosing and using different forms of birth controls. It focuses primarily on the physical well-being, and students receiving this type of education are generally better equipped to protect themselves, but still might not be prepared for the emotional implications of having sex. Okay, that's all for the types of sex educations programs offered in the world. And all in all, we believe that sex education's curriculum will give our teen students a foundation from which to form questions and have conversations with us educators. This might be so when the students will bring example from the class that they may or may not agree with when they have sharing session with their friends and what their peers have said. And we believe that sex education should not only be about having sex talk. Instead, it should be a series of open conversations over the course of many years. As our teen matures, they will have more questions regarding sex as they are prone to have curiosity in that particular topic. And we as a future educators may be the source of answer if we actually make comfortable in our classes for our students to ask these questions in our classroom. Thus, by knowing the types of sex education, we will know which type of sex education are suitable in Malaysian context. And Kara Adia will explain further how to apply sex education in Malaysian context. With that, I pass the floor to Kara Adia.
Today's presentation on teen pregnancy. Can it be avoidable with implementation of sex education? Okay. In my part, I will talk about implementing sex education in Malaysia. First of all, this is just a soft reminder that the suggestions provided in this part of presentation solely based on what me and my group mates are thinking, that the things that government should focus on if we were to implement sex education in Malaysia. There are two things that I will focus on, that are the importance of teachers training in teaching sex education, and also how schools, parents and community help in implementing sex education. But before that, let's take a break by watching this video of my first time realizing that we do need sex education in Malaysia.
Jeffrey dan Fatin, kamu pegang tangan dan sambil menari. Pegang tangannya. Yang lain ikut, pegang tangan dan menari di sekeliling pokok juga. Bagus. ganggu dia. Tak ada siapa. Jadi baby tu, saya punya.
So teachers training. Why is it important for teachers to have training before they teach the subject? Okay, by having training, we can know teacher readiness by acknowledging the importance of comfort, knowledge and skills in teaching the subject. Training also can increase teachers' ability to implement sexual education, including increasing their content, curriculum knowledge, skill, and comfort level. Financial resources should be allocated as needed to provide trainings and to facilitate teachers' attendance and to cover related costs such as transportation and accommodation costs. Training offerings should be ongoing and accessible to new and existing teachers. Teachers have a rich skill set where they are accustomed to adopting and implementing new curriculum and getting up to speed on new content. This is why they often need the most support in the development of the subject core skills such as how to comfortably discuss sex education with their students and how to answer difficult questions such as Jeffrey's question just now. Where is baby coming from? Okay, next, how can schools, parents and community help in implementing sexual education? Comprehensive sex education for kids and teens should be part of a broad and balanced curriculum. Here's what it should include. Okay, during elementary schools, sex education can be implemented by, first, teaching students about human development by giving them deeper understanding of the any different pathways human can take as they grow and develop through the lifespan. Second, teachers can also teach about safe touch. Safe touch is the one that makes you feel good and safe on the inside and mostly come from people that we love and trust, while unsafe touch makes one feel bad and unsafe on the inside. However, it gets a bit complicated because bad touch can also occur from someone that we love and trust. The most important connection is to make sure that students know how a touch makes them feel. Always give your students examples and ask them for any examples they can come up with. Example that you can give is, a safe touch is from mommy hugs and kisses you goodnight. That makes you feel warm and fuzzy on the inside. So a safe touch also can come when daddy holds you in his lap while he reads you a story. Safe touches come from doctor during a doctor visit or a checkup. Safe touches can also come from mommy or daddy when they are giving baby sister or baby brother a bath or changing their diaper to make them clean and healthy. Other than that, safe touches can also come as hugs and pats on the back from best friends. However, if a touch ever begins to make your students uncomfortable, make sure you empower them to say no or please stop, or even to walk or run away if needed. It is also a good teaching tool for empowering children to say no when it gets too uncomfortable or tough. Okay, and lastly, teaching students the right responses if they are caught in dangerous situation. Just like I said before, children need to be encouraged and empowered to say no, scream, and to run away if they ever touch or threaten in a way that makes them feel uncomfortable. A child should never stay in a situation in which they feel unsafe or unprotected. They should be taught to seek out a safe adult immediately and to know without a doubt which adult are safe to talk to. So while in secondary school, more exposure should be taught in the subject. Okay, lesson may be on puberty changes, safe sex, and contraception in preventing pregnancy. If needed, teacher can also put importance in the negative impact such as teen pregnancy, sexually transmitted disease. Most importantly, that at the end of the lesson, the objectives are achieved, and in sex education subject, the objectives should focus on for students to respect themselves and others, have more accurate information, be free to make their own choices regardless of peer and media pressures, be able to make informed decisions, and that parents will be better in teaching their children about sex. So this is basically a step where teacher help the parents to teach their kids about sex. Alright. Moving on. The next help needed is by parents. Parents can also implement sex education at home. Other than doing the safe touch talk, parents can also help by providing a safe space. Always provide a safe space. Okay, so last week I read from Said Azmi Facebook page. He's an NGO usually working with abused child. He posted a story written by a young mother who is going against all her family members because she is reporting her father molesting her child. In other words, their grandfather molests his own granddaughter. So that is not the shocking part. What makes me infuriated is that the mother also used to be molested by the same man. And the fact that other family members are ditching the mother and also the child is so... I've lost of words. But the good thing is that the mother believes in her child, and taking her away from the negative environment is what parents should do. Okay, next. By fostering open mutual communication, parents will also know how to approach the issue with their children. Always be understanding towards their needs. Like sometimes teenagers wanted to be in love, to have a boyfriend, to have a girlfriend, to be in a relationship. So parents should take that as a reason why they need to be educated. Parents can also help by reducing the big gap of views on sexual education. Communicate more with the teachers, learn more about parenthood, maybe by following people like Said Azmi, or even read Akhi Fairuz Al-Jengkawi books, who have more to share on the matter. Lastly, the community. I am going to focus on media solely because in my opinion, media broadcasting nowadays sometimes are not age appropriate for public view. I know it is also a job of a parents to control what their kids are watching in television, but let's take the latest issue for example. In Sepatu Reunion last week, Malaysians are furious when one of the jokers act on stage that have double meaning in the joke. I mean, it is supposed to be a family show, right? So, media plays a role in banning programs that are not suitable for public view. They should broadcast more about the need of sexual education in Malaysia instead of just focusing on the hot issue like incest or rape. Put more interest in sexual education and reproductive health by inviting doctors or experts on television and radio program to talk more about sex education issue. Maybe they can also educate parents in this way in handling their teenagers. And by this, media can actually play effective role in informing community about the importance of sexual education. So that's all from me. Before ending the video, I would like to say that young people are going to learn about sex somehow. It's unavoidable. But rather than have them learn from the media of their informed peers, a quality sex education in school can prepare them for real life. So, my question to you all, as future educators, are you ready to teach your students about sex education?
Okay, thank you, Kara, for that informative how information on how to apply in Malaysian context. Thus, fellow future educators, can teen pregnancy be avoidable with implementations of sex educations? In our opinion, with the reasons for the spike in teen pregnancies and the factors for the lack of sex education discussed earlier, we agree that in preventing the increasing cases of teen pregnancy in Malaysia, we should implement sex education in our curriculum. And also, we need to remember that the process of acquiring information and forming attitudes and belief about sex, sexual identity, relationship, and intimacies. Sex is related with sex education, and sex education is also about developing young people's skills so that they make informed choices about their behaviors and feel confident, also competent about acting on these choices. In addition, only believing in one type of sex education will not help in decreasing the cases of teen pregnancy, even in Malaysia. With that, we believe sex education in Malaysian context should start as early as possible, and the responsibility of teachers and parents to create a safe space learning environment in sex education. And with that, we end our presentations, and thank you for listening till the end. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.